This podcast is owned and operated by the RCR Association, a private third party to the Department of National Defense. The content of this podcast is the responsibility of the RCR Association and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of the Government of Canada. The official emblems of the regiment are used with the permission of Regimental Headquarters, the RCR. Hey, fresh.
Have I bought in?
Fresh fitted,
Is this
bro.
too much?
This guy's the poster boy of the podcast now. Hey, everybody. This is Sergeant Singh, the host of the podcast, as you know. Our guest today is an awesome character from 3RCR, a person I like to call like a buddy of mine from work, you know. Warrant Officer Brian Hurley, thank you for joining us again. To have another segment with us about your experiences overseas. And we're here to talk about things in particular to Afghanistan. So thank you for making the time to come out here. Brian, we appreciate your time.
Yeah, happy to come again. And excuse me, it's a wicked opportunity to finish telling the rest of those stories that they don't eat you up inside, but they make you want to tell. It makes me want to tell people. And everybody that knows me knows I'm a bit of a loudmouth. So I should use it to push forward with these stories.
Everybody has their own reasons for why they feel like they want to share on the podcast. And regardless of your reasons, which I think they're all awesome if you're willing to open up and, you know, put yourself in a position where you're being vulnerable, but you're also giving us an opportunity to learn from it. Thank you. But whatever your reason is, by principle, like what you're doing here is in fact offering us an opportunity to connect, learn, understand what you went through if you never served in the era of the time that you did, which when I look into it, everyone's eras are unique in a way. There's sometimes a lot of certain type of operations that occurred in a time frame that people can relate with. And when you think about it, it's like there's so many of these eras in the RCR's history, and it's kind of cool to be able to talk about each one and the people that got to experience different parts of it, you know?
Totally. And I totally agree with you too. Eras is a good choice of words. I would totally agree. I generally use two words to define eras. So they have the Bosnia era, then you have, of course, the Afghanistan era, and that has a couple of different times in it where it was the Kabul era and then the Kandahar era, and obviously post Amadusa era. And sure enough, now we're in the dealing with Ukraine era. So
yeah, you know. Speaking of these eras, when we talk about Afghanistan, in front of me I have two books, and I don't know, Brian, if you had a chance to look into these books, but for everybody watching here today, I got my first one here. It's called White Skull, Black Memories. It's written by who's now retired, but Chief Warrant Officer John Barnes. If you're watching, I'd highly recommend to check out this book. We don't really have a reading list, but I'd highly recommend, because this person not only wrote a fantastic book, they're a member of the Royal Canadian Regiment, served, I would argue, in a very distinguished manner, I don't know. But they had a very good, substantial career with the regiment, and they wrote about it. It's a good way to share and connect and to value his service, which is important because everyone's service in the regiment is important to talk about. And this is an awesome book that goes in depth of what it was like for this member and to experience a significant event of Operation Medusa as the Sergeant Major of Charles Company. So that's awesome. Check it out, White Skull, Black Memories by Chief Warrant Officer John Barnes. The other book I got is called No Names, No Patrol. And this is written by Lieutenant Colonel Steve Macbeth, who is a retired member of the Canadian Armed Forces from the RCR community as well. Started off his career as an NCO with the PPCLI and commissioned from the ranks to becoming an officer, a commanding officer, and doing some significant things in his trips, his deployments to Afghanistan. Awesome guy. This book is amazing in itself because, as the name goes, no names, no pack drill. All these stories are anonymous. So you really get a genuine kind of raw take from so many different perspectives. And you get a tactical taste and an idea from the ground, from people at the pointy end of it in different ranks, to people who are more behind the scenes, behind actionable components of the war in a talk. working with drones and laying down lethal effects in the battle space, and hearing people in other kind of roles and positions, and including life experience of being wounded in combat and experiencing highlights and good times and bad times. It's all covered in this. It's the oral history of Canadians at war in Afghanistan. Check it out. No names, no pack drill. All right, on to today's episode. Yo, Brian, so like, let's talk about your experiences overseas in Afghanistan right here. Like, you deployed in 2008,
Correct.
right? And how long was that trip?
It was, we got in at the end of August 2008 and home. I'd take my socks off for this one, but 7 months later.
7 months. And you spent a lot of time training up for it.
Yeah, we spent a whole year. And as a corporal, jokes, that was easy. It was enjoyable. But now that I'm at the other side where I have a lot more things on my plate from considering my rank, and then I also have a daughter and a wife that I care about seeing, like, those worlds would have made it much more difficult. So respect to all of our leaders who were able to juggle all of those things, including making the right choices.
Yeah, for sure. I don't have those variables in my life to have to like make decisions to navigate it. You know what I mean? Like, when you have responsibilities in your life, you got to deal with them. And especially if you're going to go away and you're going to put your life at risk. It's a very real thing. And like, the more your life at home grows and evolves over time, it impacts your decision making. And
it makes you realize that you are selfish when you're young, when you join the military, for the reasons I joined, which was to close with and destroy the enemy, which was to push myself to the max and to validate myself by courses or peers or leaders to say that, like, I can hang a bead here. And so that was great for that opportunity. And selfish lizard brain moment, like, I love that part of the job. That is my favorite part, is to do the business, to suffer in the field, to do all the fun stuff, shoot the guns, do everything. But then when I come home, my heart is with my family, my heart is with my daughter. And then ultimately I'm just like, it pains me to go, but when I'm doing it, it's game on and it's enjoyable and I really like it. So
it's so interesting. Like, when you're dedicated to being a soldier in the military, you're generally talking about having this attitude towards deployments where you're like, when it goes down, I'm going. And when your opportunity comes up, and I don't know if it registered for you at the time that what you're going to do, like, people weren't doing this for a long time in Canada, but now you're getting to go. Did that register for you?
It did, because at the time I had already had friends who had been killed in Afghanistan.
Okay.
In particular, Mark Anthony Graham, who comes from 1RCR and is well respected, as he should be, an Olympian, no less. He was on my sister battle school. So simultaneously, to see, I can't remember his size, but probably 6'7", 6'8", gigantic Olympian man. And we were all 20, so boys in comparison to somebody that had all that life experience. Him being so friendly and like approachable, and then
he was like a powerful character.
Oh, and he was a good person. He was like a friendly, lovable guy to be around. So like, to even have him like give the old "what's up" to you, like, I was like, wow, cool. That's cool that guy liked me. So to know that there was consequences to this job, especially with the nature of the fact that he was killed by friendly fire. Obviously, no such thing as friendly fire, but killed by friendly fire. I was on the guard for his funeral. So I felt connection, and I also back home here, there for the ramp ceremony, getting off the plane, and then we're there for the actual guard for actually like burying him. So I was very well aware of the consequences of the job, and also being a jumper, it's your choice. You choose to leave the airplane. So when you make that choice to jump, the intensity of the moment, all those things, but ultimately you are trusting in the equipment, trusting in the process, and trusting in leaders and other people who have done their job to lead the aircraft, and ultimately everything works and you're like, hooray. So, and that is just bringing yourself to the fight. So, I mean, I'm aware, making conscious choices to do all those things. It was just that, Amadeus had already kicked off and things had gone kinetic as well. At that time, CSOR had stood up and I had passed the PT test to make it onto course. So the week before course started, separated my shoulder on a bad parachute accident. Ultimately, jumper error. Be the first to say it. I landed. I carried too much stuff. I was a C6 gunner. My number 2 carried too much stuff in his rucksack. Sorry, he had never jumped. My number 2 had never jumped high performance aircraft. And so the rule is first time you do it bare ass. You don't wear equipment. So I was like, I don't need the help of my number 2. I'll take the cleaning kit. I'll take the extra ammo. I'll take the barrel.
Just like a big dick ego move.
Just a super smart paratrooper. You know what I mean? So overloaded myself and ultimately meteored into the ground. And so that are bad performance by coming up with a terrible plan of like taking all that stuff when I could have loaded up somebody's rucksack who wasn't going to jump with a rucksack and meet us on the drop zone. But I think no matter what, ultimately, I didn't land correctly. I didn't follow the 5 points of landing. I didn't roll it out. I didn't dissipate my energy. So ultimately I body checked the ground, and that was enough to be like my shoulder
paid for it.
Separate toward my ACL in my shoulder. So don't recommend, by the way. However, then I showed up. So that was a Thursday. Correction, that was a Wednesday. Thursday in the shacks, my roommate passed away. He passed away in the river, Alex Padulo. Rest in peace. Passed away. That was a real bummer. And then
what do you mean he passed away in the river?
So there was a civilian run course for scuba diving, and everything was in the pool. Hooray. Finally the weather had cooperated enough that they could do an open water dive, and they did it in where the Ottawa meets the Petawawa River. There's a big sinkhole there with not a lot of there's not a lot of current in that spot, but there is a lot of current beside that spot. And for whatever reason, I'm not privy to the reason, but like ultimately something didn't work on his gear, so he surfaced. But he surfaced on a diagonal. And by the way, this is one of the fittest people I've ever known. And he surfaced on an angle, and he ultimately was swept away. Once the guys that were there saw him once, saw him twice, and then he just never came back up. So big search for him, and we were down there helping search and trying to console his family, and ultimately hoping that he was just like on an island somewhere, or had been swept away and ultimately made his way to land. And sure enough, the OP.
Brian, this guy was from 3RCR?
Yeah, Private Padulo, Alex, good shit, from TDOT. Yeah, so it was pretty shocking to be in battalion, like brand new. This is somebody I went through battle school with, so you grow super tight to those kinds of people. And then we shared a 1-bedroom room, like the barracks, as you know,
really
not a lot of privacy. And yeah, it was a pretty shocking, pretty formative experience as a young man to like have your best friend or one of your best friends. Like ultimately, life is like a train, and people come and go all the time off of it. You know what I mean? So for him to be one of my closest friends, how about that, closest friends, it was pretty terrible. It was pretty shitty. But what can you do, right? Like there's no, I can't sit around like feeling sorry for myself. Ultimately, have to try to pick up on any of those mistakes, and then remember to raise a toast to him. So I stumbled through my words there. Raise a toast to him. So ultimately, it got me drunk. So that's pretty cool. But Alex Padulo.
Yeah, I appreciate you talking about him.
Alex died.
Yeah.
I separated my shoulder. Alex died. And then that Sunday, so that was Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday, first day of Special Forces selection / course. Because at the time it was rolled into one. So I like showed up like, hello. And they were just like, what? So I told them the story, and they're just like, why did you agree to jump? I'm like, I didn't know I could say no. And ultimately, would I say no? No.
It's an interesting thing because it's like on paper, it's like, why would you agree to jump? You have this big thing coming up, but it's like, you don't understand the culture of the workplace. The culture of where I work is that I don't need to be hot and horny to want to jump. I just need to be able to have the attitude to be like, Roger that. And it's like, when the day comes, you jump. And we all agreed, like, we're about it.
And I was hot and horny. Like I want.
So you have that. So like that. I don't want to say that's necessarily what you need to be like, but if you are, cool. If you're not, cool. But the answer is Roger that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Attack. Yeah.
So it's like the culture of para company is conducive to like we are going to take action to do the things, and like we accepted the risk. Unfortunately, if it does go bad and you have something lined up, of course, from a business perspective, it's like, why would you do that? Mm-hmm. But from the other perspective, it's like, you're not inside of this. If you are inside of this, then it's like, I can't just say no, man.
Yeah. And to give more context, the unit 3RCR at the time sent a significant portion of the unit was fit enough to walk onto course. So a lot of people were leaving that building to go to the new unit. So knowing that, I also knew that like my warrant officer and a good portion of my peers were jumping, were also showing up to course on Sunday. So there was like, I had no leg to stand on
Right.
to be like, well, I want to protect myself. Ultimately, I'd be saying no to a jump, and that's a quick way to lose a Marine Beret. So,
No.
and no hook private, no name tag. Like, we're not going to be saying no to things. So,
It's a very big thing to consider when you listen to this kind of story, like about like the context of your age and what's going on in your life and where you're working at, the culture,
yeah,
all that shit.
it sucked because it wasn't even war related. So it was just a terrible accident. Ultimately, it was just I mean, I can't speak to what truly did him in, but I do know that like it happened. And so,
I think a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people, but hey, man, if you become a senior NCO, there's a very good chance you're living with injuries. So I've earned a few that weren't the most, I don't know what I wish they were operational injuries, but they weren't. And it's like, God damn it, the training can be brutal. And some of the choices that we make to volunteer for certain specialties or whatever can make you in a position where you have more risk in your day-to-day training. But in lieu of that, just being in the infantry, man, wear and tear, that alone will get you. Some people quicker than others, but the injury side of it, man, I'm fucking still paying for some shit from training, dude. I wish it was a tour injury, but it's not, right?
well, that would just be for a cool story. Like,
I don't know why I'm wishing for a tour injury. Like, I shouldn't even say that. Yeah, I shouldn't even say
I
that.
know what you mean though. Like, you know what you're trying to say. You're not.
I wish there was a cooler story, but no, it was just training.
Right? Yeah, exactly. That's why it's always like, well, how'd you get that scar? Bear fight. Obviously, right? Like, I'm not gonna tell you.
I only know one guy who can actually say that story, which is like Sergeant Major Andy McTaggart, if you've ever met him. He got fucking attacked by a bear on his run. Yeah, he had headphones on. We were told we can't wear headphones anymore.
No.
Yo, he scrapped the bear. I don't know. He walked away from it. Yeah, you know?
That's, yo.
Yo,
Respect.
shout out.
Respect. Yeah.
Yeah, Sergeant Major McTaggart. But yo, Brian, please tell us, like, this is your first trip, your first deployment. You're a young person. You're a paratrooper. You're deploying overseas.
Yeah.
This is a position that you thought of you were going to be in when you thought about joining the Army?
I really wanted it. And lizard brain talking, I still do. Still do. If I didn't have a family and I like just truly didn't value the things I have that I don't take for granted, I would have gone to the Foreign Legion, been fought in Ukraine. I would have been happy to do all that, like just to satisfy that itch that we get as soldiers, as infanteers, and as paratroopers.
No.
But like ultimately as infanteers, that you're like, you wanted. And the biggest thing I say to my men, and I say regularly, which is, and my women, whatever, but like, I'm going to say men. What I say to my men is like, be careful what you wish for, because ultimately, once you get it, you don't usually want it. And that's really like the most solid advice I can give anybody. Like, be careful what you wish for, and once you get it, you may not want it. Look around work and tell me how many people you still see with those stars on their chest. It's not a matter of just guys sticking it out. Like, people are just like, that kind of place, those kinds of situations, these kinds of stories, like, build up over time. And maybe that feeling that you have now gets transferred towards the speeding driver. Maybe it gets transferred to your wife who's like been mean to you, but like there's no need to like escalate it or to like explode or do whatever it is. And we can make up a million stories about a million things, but like ultimately that kind of stress on your brain over time proven doesn't do any good for you. So it's weird because on one hand, I'll never tell my guys. I always like to pretend the idea that they're dogs and I have the leash on them and we're in a dog park. I don't know if you've ever done that, but it's very stupid to try to hold your dog. And I want my soldiers, when I take them off the leash, to go nuts. I mean, stay within your arcs, but like go nuts and do the fucking job. So to know that like ultimately I'm putting them in a position to like be on this podcast and telling these like long-winded stories where maybe to some listeners, like you might have a touch of the PTSD or an operational stress injury, or maybe you're just not healthy, or the other way around where they're like, I'm happy to share these stories and hopefully sleep well tonight. But like, I think I have gone through the full gambit of feelings throughout my entire life since these events. And ultimately I feel, I would say normal for having gone through them.
We talked about a lot there. There's a lot of things mentioned there but when it comes down to like the reason why you're opening up about it and like the benefit of it to the troops to achieve like a desired behavior, essentially, you want to have soldier subordinates who are assertive, who can be aggressive when the training is violent, who can demonstrate that they're resilient, that they're fit, of course. Almost mentioning fitness when you're talking about infantry soldiers is something that surprisingly is implied, more than assigned. Like, guys, I don't think we need to really hammer fitness. Sure, para company, we do things in a certain way that demonstrate that we have to be fit, right? But like in lieu of all this stuff, what I want to get the point across here is that, Brian, I'm getting lost in the sauce here. I've been blabbing too much. God damn. God damn it.
Fitness matters.
Fitness matters.
There's a reason why paratroopers need to be fit, and that's because you're going behind enemy lines, most likely.
But no, sorry, going back to the whole behavior thing, like you want to make them aggressive, you want to make them assertive, right? Because then they'll take action. Like you won't have some guy just being like, Sergeant, like looking at you like he doesn't know what to do. Like take the next bound. Like look left and right. Where are you? Where am I? Can you get fire effects on? Like I'm using the context of a live fire, movement range here with my subordinates, but it's like you want people who can make decisions, enable the battle, and kill the enemy, right? It's so cliche to say.
It's not though, because it works. It is that easy.
But going on to your point, so let's talk about Afghanistan, because if this is your kind of way that you want to try to hopefully use as material for them to like understand, educate themselves, hopefully change their behavior, make them more in line with what you imagine should be the attitude.
I don't necessarily need my soldiers to take too much from this.
Yeah.
They're hearing like some legitimacy for them. Maybe it gives credibility. Ultimately, I'm doing it so that way these stories are captured and then don't die in my mind.
Okay.
Right? You know what I mean? So like this opportunity to be like, look back at time and be like, yeah, I heard stories. And then they hear stories from an actual person that was there to be like, oh, snap. Like it did get that kinetic, but it did also have lots of time where there was nothing going on, where you're like doing stuff to do stuff. And that's fine. And that's our job, is to go and kick hornet nests. And sometimes there's hornets, sometimes it's empty. So ultimately we're always out there doing the thing. But like, yeah, we can get right back. Let's get back into it. Yeah. So
let's get into it.
On the last time we talked, we finished with, as I remember at least, we finished with, we were in the combat outpost and we had.
What was it called?
The combat outpost name was Zangabad. So Cop Zangabad. And we had got into a big firefight. I personally smashed, at least I think I smashed 3 bad guys. Came back the next day.
As a C6 gunner?
C6 gunner, yeah.
What platoon?
2 platoon.
Oh, yeah.
Platoon, wrap in. Anyways, then the next day they were quite upset. The Taliban were quite upset that we were so bold to do something so silly, I guess, to them. So they attacked us and we took a couple casualties. We talked about that.
So how did you know that was the case? Like, how would you be like, you knew the Taliban were upset?
So there was like, so I can only go off of rumors because, of course, I am not plugged into like.
Right. It's about what you heard. Yeah.
The rumors that we had heard over the ICOM, over the radio.
Okay.
That used our linguists, our interpreters, also would crack the code and they'd sit there listening and then relaying information.
Well,
normally you'd hear a lot of talking and your interpreter would say something like, yeah, they have the ambush set. And you're like, shouldn't you have passed that on? Why am I prompting you? But I digress. He came up and he said, listen, like that fight, they were very upset. The local commanders really like quite like disrespected that we would go down there and like cause this big ruckus and that we like caused a bunch of people to die. So bad guys, of course. And then so the next day, I guess there was like a flex and they wanted to like really, they were trying to take the cops. So we ended up stopping that and then shelling the shit out of everything. And it was super cool.
How was morale?
It's a weird situation to take casualties, especially people within your team, and then also to be psyched about that. So I talked about it, like, at the time, mailman, took shrapnel all up upside of his head, and he was walking wounded, like, coming over with his helmet askew, big bandage, big bloody bandage. How you guys doing? Our warrant running after him. Get the fuck back under cover. And he was just like, I want to see the guys. Like, yo, sick, right? So you're just like, fuck yeah, he's going to be all right. And then your other buddy, like Corporal Phillips, who had a sizable injury in his back from shrapnel, like, he wasn't doing okay. And he didn't appear to like he was going to die, but like you're not going to be okay with a big hole in your back. So that you don't want to be like, yeah, we won the day. Ooh, like, so you tread that middle ground. No matter what I've learned is that anybody that gets in a firefight after the fact, it is everybody gets a turn to tell their side of the story, and you both were beside each other. But it's my turn to talk. I tell this big story about all the things that I did, and then you'll get your chance. And everybody does that. It's this weird phenomenon that I've noticed that like everybody becomes like hens in a hen's house. Like they just absolutely need to get it out of their system. But jumps are the same. Anything that gets your adrenaline way higher than like driving a car fast, like next level death defying, you know what I mean? At the end of it, you're just like, when I landed, I hit my head really hard. Me too. Like it's that, but in shooting context and stuff. So on one hand, we were like, wow, we had M777s firing proximity airbursts within 70 meters. It was shredding the shit out of our own camp, like our little combat outposts. Like we had like tarps. It was ripping the shit out of the tarps. We were having to like dive for cover and stuff to repel these bad guys. Would we have been fine had we not used artillery? Yes, obviously, because we're expert shooters. But honestly, the artillery really worked. And
was it danger close?
Oh yeah, totally.
Dude, what the?
This is like 600 meters.
What was that like?
It was loud. It's something that you feel in you. That
dude, 155 coming in danger close.
Yeah, it worked. It was really exciting, and I had this book in my mind of things I wanted to check that I was like I wanted to experience. Then there was like another page of things I didn't want to experience, and then finally a blank page like what could go into this one. And
that you weren't expecting, essentially.
Like, I felt like I filled my book. So like danger close artillery, I didn't know much about that, but I couldn't help but have a lizard brain of being like, this would be fucking kind of cool though. And then I saw it and I was like, that fucking was cool. It was awesome to see a show of force where an airplane comes down and like rips over the battlefield like 100 feet off the ground, like an air show, except it's for real. And then at the perfect moment, like tilts up, does some flippy thing and flies off into the air. You're just like, how could we lose? How could you lose? Do you know what I mean? So it's these crazy aggressive highs and lows, and especially the juxtaposition of like that feeling of like I think I talked about last time. The best word that for me was the word dread. Like you live in this like you're dreading the eventuality that you could fucking die. You're dreading the eventuality that like, oh man, I hope he doesn't.
Would you say that was at all ages that were deployed, or would you say that's common at all at any age demographic?
You know what? The problem is that like that word best defines the feeling for me. So maybe that isn't the right word. Somebody else, like I have friends that would probably never
relate
the word dread. They probably try to big dick it and say like, no man, I wasn't scared at all. But there was times where.
Could you argue that every person generally will experience anxiety when their life clicks in that it's in danger? Yeah, like you're receiving effective enemy fire.
So like in the moment, I didn't feel. There was only 2 times that I was scared on that tour, and both were just near misses. So, but like the dread of getting in. So I'm in the vehicle. I'm not afraid. I'd get in the vehicle. I would get into the air sentry hatch, set my life up. We're all good. The ramp closes. Then you're like, all right, well, fuck, here we go. And then when the vehicle goes, you have no control. It's not up to you. You're just fucking going with the flow. And
did it register for you?
You're aware, of course, yeah. And you're aware that like a lot of our casualties are happening in vehicles because vehicles can only go certain places, right? Like you can't just drive over a house. You got to go around the house. Well, if I'm enemy, I know you have to go around the house. So there's like a bunch of things that like when you're doing it, you're just like, well, fuck, here we go. Like I'm going to do it. And so there is, for me, the word dread, because you're dreading the fucking worst case scenario. And then when it never happens, then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'm fine. Everything's good. Then what was there to be scared of? And then I'm going to call home. And everywhere as you're walking around inside the safety of a compound, you can see the way just the terrain works, that like you can see the village, like past the walls. Like there they are right there because of the way the fucking, the ground works.
So did you live in close proximity to where typically you would engage the enemy?
Definitely lived close enough that they were within our like effective like ranges of our weapon systems.
Okay, so that's very close proximity. So you're going to sleep, you're living your day to day, you're patrolling.
Yeah. Especially when we were on our main camp, we had an old like a giant built up mountain. Gars.
Yeah.
So a gar that at the top of it we had an OP. We had all the fucking fighting equipment we needed to like keep our eyes on the main road our main road that connected to the actual main road.
So what was your purpose on that position? Did you know?
Keep eyes on the road because there was 3.
What was the road? Was the road called anything?
Route Brown.
It was called Route Brown. So they're like, hey, you guys, for your platoon or your company?
It was for the company.
Your company's going to hold this area so that we can control this piece of real estate.
At this time, this was our main patrol base, and the main route in and out that everything would come in on had 3 culverts. I think they were at like 600, 800, and 1,000 meters, something like that. But
a busy MSR?
Not busy because of us. Not busy because of
you guys brought a lot of the traffic there.
Yeah, but which makes sense because we like takes a lot to like people like however many people
support a company, yeah,
and a company plus. So, but with that being said, that those day and night eyes on those culverts, and they still managed to sneak some IEDs into those culverts throughout our adventures there. But like they were clever, and the ones that weren't clever got caught. Did
you have any respect for them for being clever?
No, because they were already starting on the wrong side.
Like, and I want to be careful how I say this, but it's like, there's an expression, and I think it's almost like common knowledge to say this, but to say, don't underestimate your enemy.
Sure.
And it's like, well, I don't want to say you should also be like proud of your enemy. You know what I mean? But to be like, hey, I know they can fuck our day up hard.
Sure, I know that's true, but like I know that like it's true in the other way. So like the thing is this:
that you could devastate them.
Do they respect me?
Mm-hmm. Did you feel like they did?
I don't care.
Okay.
Right. I don't mean that in a disregarding your disregarding you. I mean that in a I don't care that they have a say. I care about what they say. But I don't care that they have a say because ultimately I'm not going to be stopped by them. And that's a mentality. That is not, let's be idiots and disregard their abilities to like mine certain avenues. So let's just take them regardless. Like it wasn't that. It was honestly like, fuck you, I'm the winner.
And that's
the enemy.
That's ideal.
The way around.
When you're serving as a maneuver force against an enemy combatant, it's like you want to leverage offensive action. You want to dominate the enemy. And it's like...
It starts at home, man.
It's just business at that point.
You got to have that never fucking say die attitude. You want to kill the enemy. Like, I want to kill you. So now, reel back, add some layers of, like, normalcy and be like, all right, cool, I can also be reasoned with. And I will give you an opportunity to, like, prove to me you're not a bad guy. But ultimately, you're doing the wrong thing. Like, course is over.
Yo, so, like... when you're doing this stuff, right? Like you guys are applying violence of action on the enemy. You guys are patrolling. It's fucking there's risk out there. These enemy. Did you find them relentless? Like every day they're at it.
No, I didn't find it. Honestly, like
what was the tempo like?
It was nice because it was work. It was work. I like working, so it was work. It was the schedule seemed to be. It didn't seem to be. It was this. It was you'd have 1 week or so of defense and security of the base.
Is this low intensity, high intensity?
It's low intensity because you're literally...
Generally speaking, low intensity.
That kid's throwing a rock at a camel. Like, that was it. And you'd do shifts. And then you'd alternate between the front gate and then the top of that mountain outside.
What'd you call this?
The name of the place was Spurwin Gar, but the Gar
really?
is mountain. So, like, it's a... I use a mountain, like an Ontario mountain. It's not a mountain, but, like...
Big hill.
You would, like, work on the top. So you just... alternate between that, and then there would be a week of offensive daytime patrolling, so going out actively looking, maybe driving out to certain places we'd never been to, actively searching or walking and preventing the enemy from taking up like a permanent residence, at least near us.
Mm.
Didn't mean that people didn't come in there to do their thing, but like ultimately, as they explained it to me or explained it to us, when you're working with counterinsurgency, it's more like pushing a balloon that's connected to a weight. So I'm pushing it out. I come in here, I'm pushing that balloon out of the way. Like, yeah, no bad guys here. When I leave, that balloon comes back.
So can you talk about counterinsurgency? What did you understand about it when you deployed to Afghanistan?
Honestly,
did it get brought up? Was it on your radar?
We were very aware of it. We talked about coin operations all the time. We knew we were fighting a counterinsurgency, but it didn't really change too much from my perspective as to what my job was. What it meant, I think, more was it meant more that you were paying attention to the fact that it wasn't regular. So like I went through all my battle school training thinking like fighting that Russian style.
A conventional.
Yeah, attacking trenches, like living in the woods, going through swamps, like thinking about that kind of stuff. And then you come into this tour where we were now walking around, and it was way more like a Vietnam story where it was just like the enemy was dressed like the locals. So you were like, all right, cool. There was like some cute little traps that some of the guys played, or some of the bosses played, where they were like, they'd pull one guy aside. So a group of 5 dudes, they'd pull one guy aside, like, what are all their names? And they say their names. And the next guy, what are all their names? What are all their names? Finally, one guy comes up and says completely different names. I'm like, seems like you seem like an interesting person. And then you just, do gun residue, like the GSR, check to see if that's the thing or whatever. Ultimately, again, I'm a corporal. In this story, I'm a young corporal. I'm a machine gunner. I was paying attention to being out and listening, like glancing back every now and then to be like, what are they doing? But ultimately, I did care about my job, and I cared about fucking apparently looking at nothing. But seriously, trying to fucking find the bad guys and be the fucking biggest weapon system that our platoon carried. So,
yo, what was it like employing the C6 in combat?
It's awesome. It is awesome. It is also, if you're good at it, you are aware of a bunch of things. And one of them is that you're going to be one of their bigger targets, especially once it starts to buck. So do
you remember when you received intentional fire because they knew you had the big gun?
Yeah, because I wouldn't stick in a spot for too long. So
can you tell us about the time?
Basically every time that we were in a tick, I remember my friends from previous tours, Amadusa, saying to me specifically, like, don't stay in a spot for long. But like fire, like get your 50, 60 rounds off and then get fucking moving because you're going to draw attention. And I like always remember that. And then I was like very conscious to like, okay, spend some time here, get the fuck, try to a different spot. And after I do, I look back and sure enough, I would see a bunch of leaves falling over the spot or sticks breaking. Like, I didn't feel offended. I was always offended when they fired at us from the place we just left. That was offensive. That was when I was just like, I'm purposely fucking trying to kill you now. Like, because we go there and everybody give you the wassalam alaikum, and I was always friendly back. Well, some salam, like, hello, how are you? Like, wave at kids, like, do everything we can to be like reasonable based on the circumstances. And literally no Taliban here. We've never seen anybody. This is fucking never a thing. Leave within 400 meters, like getting 2 RPGs and a bunch of fucking rounds at you. And you're like, you fucking cowards. But also, like, how can I respect that? Like, fuck you. But also, if I am running around with no body armor on and have a single rifle, maybe that's the play. I don't know. I was
talking to somebody about it the other week, right? John Barnes, actually, the guy who wrote this book. And I'm like, say what you want. Whatever course it is, leadership course or whatever course it is. But like when you tell a person, don't take things personally in the military. Yeah, I get it. Objectively speaking and generally speaking, don't take it personally is going to serve you very well. Now, when you think about getting into the weeds of what it's like being in the military, what it's like to experience combat, that shit's hard not to take it personally. Motherfucker trying to kill you.
That's it.
Your friends. Like, I'll tell you, I got love for the guys I work with right now. I've been with them for like 7, maybe going on 6, 7 months in para company. I genuinely got love for these guys. So when I give them shit, when I give them the gears, it's coming from a place of compassion too, even though I could be very assertive with them when I'm speaking to them. Like I'm not a friendly person, but I do want to point across that, like, yo, it's hard not to take things personally when you care. When you're so dedicated to the job and when you care about the job, but yo, when you care about the people, man,
Yeah, there's also expectations that you have.
Yeah.
If people don't meet them because of their own poor performance, then it's understandable that you're mad at them.
Yeah.
If they can't pick up on that, then that's the issue. And that right there is the hardest part, is to like overbearing sometimes makes them retreat, or sometimes people step up, and then letting them fucking just figure it out is also a good angle if it works. If it doesn't work, then you haven't done anything, and that's you. So there is no medium. That's the good news. That's the good news.
Yeah.
There is no medium. There is no like right answer, or else we just fucking teach it.
So when you're
a single person is their own deal, and ultimately they need you to be the fucking man and do the things you're doing, and then they're gonna be like, oh, remember when Sting yelled at you, and everybody will high five about that. But it takes time. It takes time.
You know what's interesting? Like, and I'm sorry to cut you off because we're talking about your experiences right now and about like, experiencing contact, being the C6 gunner, being targeted. But I do want to highlight the fact that, like, when I think about this job, because the idea of like how much time you spend working with guys, and sometimes like you have to give them the gears, you have to give them the hard talks, you have to like correct some behavior, right? Fuck, it's like how do I explain this in the best way?
It's just the burden of leadership. That's the
burden of leadership.
That's it. The sooner that, like, for me, it was the sooner that I realized that, like, they're going to like you regardless, or they're not going to like you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I can't stop being myself. And so that's it. And I have had lots of critical things said about me for me being myself.
Yeah.
And then I've had a lot of people blow me up saying that's fucking good work. So like I said, there's no medium.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if you do your job well and you prove to the guys that you're fucking something to be counted on, party on. That's all that matters. All I care about is people that want to fucking, like, I've said it from the beginning. Not from the beginning. I've said this since I started to be a leader. I was like, do I want the guys to come and save me because they want to save me, or do they want to come out and save me because they want to win a medal? I want them to come and save me because they want to fucking like me, right? Like, just come and get me. I'm fucking needed, right? As opposed to somebody being like, oh, fuck, I'll do it. And then ultimately, I want to be saved either way, but I want them to come because they're like, fuck, we don't want them to fucking die.
Yeah, straight up, and I've related with that idea when I've taught courses, because I tell guys, especially on PLQ, where I'm like, you want to be a person who's not just a commander and a manager. You want to be a leader, which means like you got to get good at empowering people. And when you are so good at that, your people will do things for you, not because you told them to, because they believe in you. Like, there's man. There's such influential people in my career, in my life. Like, there's a handful of people that stand out so much that the amount of respect I have for them and admiration is that I'm like, I don't even give a fuck what this is about. The fact that you're in charge is all I need to know. Like, I'll work for you any day, no matter what the job is. And that's a demonstration that some people can have such an impact as being a leader. When we're talking about empowering our folks.
And it's interesting because I'll tell a story about me being a bad friend, but I was part of the clique, and how this leads to what you're just talking about. So one of our guys had a negligent discharge. He fired his machine gun 3 rounds. It obviously shouldn't have, inside of our building, which was an old school. So he fired his 3 rounds. Rah! The first 3, so the 3 rounds hit the floor, hit the wall. The first one hit his section commander in the butt. Second one hit him in the back, and the third one missed his head and hit him in the ceiling. So enough energy had dissipated from the rounds when it hit the wall, hit the floor, hit the wall, and hit his section commander, that it punched a perfect circle into his butt cheek that didn't go too deep but drew blood. The second one, the round, you could see the shape of the round when it hit his back. Did a big scratch, the shape of a round. And the third one obviously missed him in the head. So he's a little Newfoundlander. Bye. But obviously, like, oof. So Buddy gets punished for that. We go to this combat outpost without this dude. This dude ends up twisting his ankle And
Yo, Brian, can I ask you something?
what's up?
Yo, battlefield justice, dog.
Yeah, so that didn't happen, thankfully. So that's not that part of the story. But there is some like here's where the story where we were unprofessional. There's the word I'll use.
Right.
Buddy does that stuff, loses a chance to go to the combat outpost with us. We get in all these firefights,
Right.
have all these like experiences, come back, he's part of the platoon again, twists his ankle on it, and then goes on leave, comes back from leave and is like, I need crutches now, I can't do this, whatever. He gets sent back to the base we're at, but he isn't put back in our platoon. So he's kicked out of the platoon. He spends the rest of the tour monitoring the radio. Bummer. Sucks to be whatever though. You got made a lot of money and gets the same medal. So good. And ultimately took a job that somebody would have had to do. So neat. However, we rebuilt. We had the front gate rebuilt. They had a tower there with machine guns and all that good stuff. They had it rebuilt and it was covered in graffiti from the previous tours. And so our bosses had said, absolutely no fucking graffiti. If anything is in there and we find out who it is, you're in trouble. They're all hell break loose, whatever. So what happens, of course, is we create underneath a map that we had taped down, everybody started chirping this dude. And then just like once you chirp him, ha ha ha, cover the map, go back to burning glass, looking at nothing. You know what I mean? You're looking for bad guys, and we truly were looking for bad guys, but like 3-hour shift and nothing's happening, like eventually you're like, oh my God. So funny things were written, and I'm guilty of writing a funny thing. Dude was known for having a giant penis, so it was like, I said, what my chirp was, can he have a big dick, but he has no balls. Other people said like he's working for the Taliban, all sorts of jokes, whatever. Ultimately, honestly, we knew he couldn't see it because he wasn't going to leave that area on his crutches to make his way down there to see it. We just knew it was a safe place to like vent and talk shit.
Right.
We also knew don't do that. So we were like, this map will protect us. Our platoon finished its time on the gate. The next platoon went in there. They saw it. They laughed. They also added to it. However, they didn't cover it up. Sergeant Major comes back from his leave, sees it, and he's like, I know who the fuck, I know BKB platoon. I want fucking names. So we're like, So I remember I went around, I personally, I don't know if other people chose to do it, but I know for sure I went to rooms. I'm like, if you wrote on it, come forward. I'm going to come forward. Just, like be a man, like fuck whatever. And because I think the fear was that it was going to be like big group punishment instead. So a sizable group of us came forward. We all got smacked pretty hard for it, like written warnings, and we all get in trouble for this. Justifiably so. Sure, whatever. We come forward. They get mad at us. And a master corporal who then went on it. So his last name is Holmes. He's a fucking legend, an airborne guy all the way. Pathfinder, left the infantry to do hard stuff in the Navy, came back to the infantry and was on tour with us. He was doing, we called it Bulldog, but essentially it was just a master corporal that was on duty. They would drive out, make sure things were going on, how you guys doing, whatever, making sure things were resupplied. I didn't have the job, so I don't know all the nuances, but like ultimately they were doing like cared about all the admin. He was your admin guy. Go to him, he'll sort the thing out.
This is deployed in Afghanistan?
Yeah, this was, so we did that board, and then we all got in trouble for it, and he came forward and was like, I was one of the master corporals on when that was going down. I should have known better. I'm going to stand here with you guys. This guy was in the Airborne regiment. This guy was as to the young guys, like as legit as you could be. And he's like, yep, charge me too, or give me the fucking same problem. It's the same thing. I remember I was sitting with him at lunch, and the sergeant major came in and sat with us, and he looked at him and was like, you don't need to, like, we know that you didn't put your like right on that board. And he's like, yeah, but like I still was on duty. It still happened under my watch, and I will still stand there and be like, I also should be fucking punished for this. And he's the only one of the master corporals that did it. And to me, that was like one of the most legit things I've ever seen a fucking leader do. The most legit. Like, he stood there and was just like, punish me too then. And they did. They did. But it was one of those things where it was like, I have never, and I'll never ever, like, that to me was some of the most like credible like leadership I've ever seen, was somebody that like didn't need to take the L and stood there with us and was just like, yeah, fucking right. I should have known. And ultimately we shouldn't have put him in that position. So that's what I took away from that, from a personal perspective, as somebody caught some trouble because of like my performance. So that was something that I took away from that. That was the point of that story. connecting to leadership and all that kind of thing.
But it's like a significant lesson, you know, by seeing somebody like demonstrate that, do that. It's a big deal. It's not common.
It's that, and that's like, you know what, maybe it's good that it's not common because hopefully people aren't putting themselves in that kind of position. But ultimately, he was the only one that like stepped up and was just like, yep, I should have known better. Now, I'm not blaming any other master corporal because they probably weren't aware. So like, that's not fair to give them a show.
Yo, Brian, can I ask you something? Is it hard? Like, do you think when you're overseas in combat, are you impressed a lot? Do you remember being impressed a lot? Because that
Maybe
right there sounds like a moment where you're impressed by this guy's character.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. That was impressive. Yeah.
Do you remember other times you were impressed by anybody in Afghanistan for like, wow?
It's what, like, I think one of the things that we all say, and we still say it, and you probably say it too, we kind of don't like it when people get rewards for doing their job. So there's times where maybe I was impressed or maybe I wasn't impressed, but I didn't see anything that was like overtly wrong. But the friends that I have that have earned appropriate bravery medals, their stories are legit.
Can you tell us about a story?
I would be speaking on behalf of somebody else. So let's just say one of our snipers was able to dispatch a bunch of different bad guys, and being privy to it and then hearing over the ICOM, like specifically to like stay out of the open, stay out of doorways, things like that, where I was like, we were all like, oh, because we were shooting in the direction of shooting. So being shot at, shooting in that direction. But like these guys had squirreled themselves away in these positions where they could actually see the bad guys. And like I have a little video on my YouTube channel where it has just the audio of the conversations of these snipers, and they're just like, I see him, I hit him, I see him, he's squirming in there, and the other guy's like, I think I got him. Yeah. And then while they're kind of like celebrating that exact moment of like tagging a dude, the other sniper is, did you see I got that one? Yep. And then the video ends and it's like, yeah, sweet. So maybe not necessarily impressed by an individual feat because I wasn't privy to any, but definitely impressed by all of us working together and truly not losing. And that was, to me, what mattered the most.
Did you guys have any kind of legendary characters in the company or platoon at the time?
Me? No, playing that. I don't like...
Were you happy that some guys were there? You're like, man, yo, this platoon is awesome because these guys are here.
It's because we were tight, and I would say that the biggest reward you can win is to have everybody come home.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right? So it's like, ultimately... Yeah, it would have been cool to have like...
My point is, I'm trying to ask you if there's like any people that you were really, I don't know if you want to give a shout out because you're just fortunate to have them there as a section commander, if there's a particular role or anybody played where you're just like, yo, this guy was dope at that job. But if what you're trying to say is everybody was great at what they were doing.
Yeah, I don't know. Like everybody, like 2 platoon, we
performed awesome.
We were, yeah. I have nobody in particular that I want to like. Our officer was awesome. Our Mr. Hentz, he was Andrew Hentz, so he was an excellent officer. He won a leadership award over there. And
was he a young person or an older?
He was a younger dude, and absolutely deserved all the recognition he got. And sadly, he left the military to do something smarter. He became a lawyer, as I understand it. But like honestly, like he after our tour went on, did American Ranger course, passed it, went back and did a second tour. I believe
to Afghanistan
as an aide, and ultimately was like, if this is what the future holds, I don't want to fucking be an aide. So he showed that he was obviously like wildly smart, and then just went on and passed the bar, became a lawyer, and yeah, okay, no big deal. But honestly, like
your platoon commander overseas,
is memorable for like seeing someone that was essentially kind of like my age, but just way more aware of the higher level things that need to be paying attention to, just aware of the battlefield. He was just a smart human being. And then the thing is that like no matter what, the best plans, if you don't have anybody to action them, fucking don't matter. So like his plans we did. And so that was, and then one time
interesting.
One time we came back from a fight, and I remember talking to him because I was as weapons as
what's his name?
Andrew Hentz. Hentz. But at the end of the I remember we got a big firefight, whatever, came running back, and then I remember him being like, "What would you have done differently, sir?" He's like, "I would have got us back here, reloaded, and gone back out." He's like, "That's what I wish we did." And I remember like being like, just being proud that we got back. I was like, "Fuck yeah, we made it! We did that like Mogadishu mile, running for our lives kind of thing." And I use the word running for my lives really loosely, not like terrified, but like making our way back to the camp. And that, first off, to think that like we could just grab shit and go back out was like, whoa, hold on, that's an option. And it is when you think clearly, but at the time I was like, oh shit. And then I was just like, yeah, let's fucking do it, like let's go for it. But ultimately, cooler heads prevailed. It was getting dark. Like there was probably just gonna ask to step on an IED instead of fighting somebody. So, but like the fact that he was thinking like he was mad because we still were not being offensive enough, to me was like, oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess you're right.
This guy was a young lieutenant.
I believe he was lieutenant. Yeah.
Oh.
It was dope though. I remember, just like I said, like I was like, whoa, that is an option. And then like fucking put me in. Let's go. Let's get him. But like I said, like failing light, like ultimately, and also like you're playing with people's lives. Like going back out and having somebody die would also be the opposite of a good idea. So like, where's the line? Ultimately, I'm going to say he made the right choice because here we are. So that's that.
That's awesome.
And like, so some of my stories, I have wrote it down to remind myself.
Yeah, man.
So we fought in in Zangabad out of this combat outpost. I think we were out there for 22 days or something. Had the day before, went out and got into that brew up that killed the bunch of bad guys. We made it back. The local area was like a buzz, bringing some bad guys over from other places.
Did we talk about this on the last podcast?
Yeah.
For anybody listening, if you want more context, check out our first podcast.
So anyways, we then they attack us the next day, and that's when we get danger close. We get all the big fighting, and we take the casualties. And we were due to be relieved in place, so ripped. We were due to be ripped out a couple days later, but because of how kinetic things got, they came early. And the idea was they couldn't take 88 vehicles. They couldn't take the main road because it was so IED'd. So, excuse me, what they did instead was drove down the middle of mostly dried up riverbed, the Arghandab riverbed, and that was sandwiched between the Panjwai district and the Zari district. So Para Company had the Panjwai, and November Company had Zari, and both places were regularly fighting. And then we drove an 88 vehicle convoy between them and took as much fire as you could imagine driving between two terrible places. But cool, neat, we're ready for it. Everybody's buttoned up in vehicles with tanks. Tanks are just slewing, smashing targets the entire time. Just 88 vehicles just driving through constant ambushes and just laying waste.
Iron Fist.
It was very impressive.
No.
Now, I was part of it to leave, but not to come in. So anyways, they were under attack the entire way. And then then they slept in that riverbed that night. And then the next day they just plowed a road. They made a road straight to us, and did a quick, like maybe like a no less than an hour relief in place, literally like hucking out stuff. Next platoon's in, we're just like, over there's bad, over there's bad, over there's bad, over there's bad. Like it was just in every direction. And it's funny because like we built these combat outposts, Canada, with the idea that we could like put these things in here to control an area. And ultimately what it did was it forced us to stay in one spot and gave everybody freedom of movement around us. So it ultimately like reversed and turned us into a defensive. So that's when you left. It was, my attitude was when I left that, when I would leave the combat outpost, was like, I am like essentially leaving the defensive, and now I'm in like enemy territory. But the problem is that like any direction I went was enemy. There was no like safe lines. There was no like protection from a rear.
You're living in a bubble in hostile country.
Yeah, it was and good. I'm a paratrooper. I want that, but I don't want that truly. But I want that from lizard brain. Like, good. That means in any direction I go, someone needs to be worried.
Yeah.
So we get this relief in place. We then get into their vehicles and then drive back and spend the night in this the same spot they leaguered up the night before. And I remembered plain as day, as soon as we left, and it was nighttime, I was doing my turn on the turret watching security. Sure enough, they get mortared and they fire back with them 777s. We're about like maybe 2 or 3 kilometers away, but like it lit up the sky exactly like World War II movies, where it was like just in the distance, everything lit up. Like, what the fuck? Where am I? This is crazy. And then the next day we did our river run on the way back, and it was cool to be in a vehicle and hear what it sounds like to be shot, to hear the tick, 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 and you're like, no, whatever. And then sure enough, when it was 18 hours, the Taliban also were like messing with their fuses in their RPGs, trying to hit crew commanders. So they would fire and turn it into air bursts.
Wow.
Burst too soon. So really quickly we realized that. So we went hatches down. And then I don't know if you've ever been in the back of a LAV. Mm-hmm. Hatches down for 18 hours. Like it gets old right away. And when people have to poo, you're like, oh no. Like, so we get back to the main place called Panjwai Bazaar. And then we have to get out to do some like traffic security so we can keep pushing through. And that's the first time I'm like looking at the side of our vehicle, and like all the jerry cans are empty. Like there's bullet holes in all of our garbage bags. Like it was, I couldn't believe it. It was shocking. I was like, what? And every vehicle had battle damage like that. And you're like, yeah, I guess so. There was like the 81 millimeter recoilless rifles that the enemy used that at the time would like potentially defeat our vehicles. They were like being fired, and then they run away, and then just the weapon system would remain there. So then they get a tanker would come across the net being like, do we have permission to shoot that system? And obviously our OC was like, yeah, fucking shoot it. What are you doing? That's everything we need. And just dusting, like, you just, what the fuck is happening? So it was sweet. It was awesome. Everything was like in a controlled rage, but that was the river run. I'm just trying to like think.
How deep was that in the tour?
Like 23, maybe 29 days in.
That's 29 days in.
Yeah.
And you guys
spent about 4 days prepping and getting out to the place, and then we helicoptered into the combat outpost, spent 22 days there, and then this was the drive out. We're like, what is
So Brian, I don't know if we finished that talk about the tempo of tour, but there was times where you're static, and then there's times where you guys are the maneuvering force and getting out there trying to reach the enemy and hold ground and dominate it.
There was 1 week of defense and security, 1 week of daytime patrols, 1 week of nighttime patrols, and then usually or so 1 week of being on quick response force.
Right.
And that was at a different base. And in between all of that, your platoon would work with another platoon in the company, and you would do an operation. So you'd be like, cool, we're doing day patrols. You get like 4 day patrols in, then they're going to be like, okay, we got an op coming up, and we're going to fucking do a feint and drive through the desert and then end up in another place and kick rocks or whatever it is. And ultimately, it was a 50-50 on whether or not bad guys would be there or not. But like, that was it. So there was a rhythm, but like it was always interrupted by a whole bunch of other things going on at the same time. So
Brian, this is like an opinion question. Like, do you think that we could, or it would be a good idea to like part ways from the tour system and just go on campaign until the job is done?
I personally believe that would have been a great idea.
That's like the World War II approach
for the Kandahar portion of our tour, the only part I can speak to. I felt at the end of that tour that I wish I had more time there. We spent 6 months developing that area, especially my tour that ended up going over winter time. We spent a lot of time like going to places where it wasn't overt fighting, a lot of IEDs, a lot of messing around with that kind of stuff. There were bad guys still lurking, but like ultimately we spent a lot of time making like some version of headway. And I would say that no matter what, I left saying it was a slow grind. We were winning. It wasn't about hearts and minds from my boots on the ground thing, though I was being always mindful and respectful to the people. Was never planned to like wreck that relationship, but like I also knew that they didn't trust us because of what we were there for, which was to like try to sort out who was good, who was bad.
Right. Deployments changed over time with especially what the strategic message was to the, I don't know, like the strategic intentions or objectives there, but hearts and minds wasn't like a thing that was being forced upon for the battle group to try to implement.
It was
until was
it?
Yeah,
yeah, that was like very regular that we didn't.
It was always talked about.
It was always talked about, and it was something that we like prided ourselves.
Oh wow!
Trying not to wreck because ultimately we knew that if we didn't,
you knew the impact.
We didn't. If we knew if we didn't have the the cooperation of the population, there's no way they're going to turn over a bad guy.
Yeah.
There's no way they're going to say like that's the direction, or maybe
Did you need someone to tell you about that, or did you naturally know that?
I would say that it was
Taught?
before. Yeah, it was before I had a chance to make an opinion. And
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
said like, don't.
Hey man, there's negative impacts.
It doesn't take long to look back at our Canadian Forces history to find like fucking moments where people wrecked it for everyone. So like all it takes is a remember to look back in the past and be like, ugh, right? So if that's the case, then you should be mindful anyways that like the not everyone's bad. I wish it could be like that, so it'd be a little bit easier, but like ultimately that's not the case. Like even if you had full authority to shoot anyone that you saw, you would still hold fire on people that don't deserve to die for no reason. You know what I mean? So that we just knew, and it was stressed on us regularly that the importance that like wrecking that would not help us.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried our best not to do that. Like, yeah, that was.
And Brian, to the other point too about like going on campaign versus tours and stuff, would you say like it's basically situation dependent on like what the mission is and all that kind of
I
stuff?
would say yes, just due to the fact that like I have no example that we're using. So,
Yeah.
but I agree though that like I had wished that I would went there for 2 years.
It's an interesting concept.
But,
Like sometimes like when I look at it like I've heard of American deployments going for 12 longer than that months, which is a grind, man. That's all significant amount of your life just being deployed for one rotational deployment. But then there's also World War II, and I'm not very knowledgeable about Korea, but World War II just going on campaign until it's over was like the common way of going about service.
I would say the context changed, right?
Yeah.
The context there was a little bit different.
Yeah.
You were
Very different, you could say.
well,
Large scale conventional war.
We were doing coin where if I like stepped on a little kid's toes, it could lead to the same route being IED. Like it's a weird random example, right? But yeah, River Run came out. Holy fuck, vehicle was all shot up, and I was like, or at least had bullet holes all over the place, and in our garbage bags and stuff, and being like, this is crazy. So then we went after that op. We went right back to Sportwangar and then geared up for our first op as a company, as para company. So
your first op as para company.
Yeah, the first because we were the first platoon in.
Dude, what was that like?
It's cool to say now, that's for sure. The plan was to go for 3 days. There was like we called it the Dragon's Back. There's 3 like prominent big pieces of stone that were like you could see from very far all over the place, and then it was all built up all around it. And so the plan was to make it out to there. Anything past the 2-night easting, you were getting in a firefight, promise, no matter what. Pigley told us that very true. And sure enough, we did it and went there. The intentions were 3 days. Like, how do you pack for that? Fuck. So, especially being a machine gunner, I was like, I choose ammo over anything. And then you're freezing at night because sure, it goes up to 40 degrees in the day, but then at night it goes down to maybe 5 degrees, and that difference is terrible. And so we left at like 2 or 3 in the morning. One platoon took one route, our platoon took another route. They ended up having a faster route, but it was our job to go to a pivot. So walk up, hold it. They would come up to us and then work through us. Ultimately, they got to their position first, and then we were had bad terrain, so we were just slogging through it, catching up, whatever. Sun comes up, Taliban in the area between our 2 platoons. They don't even know our platoon's there. They wake up and they're like, holy fuck, there they are, get their homies, and they attack our guys on the other side, and then they don't know we're there. But we're now in the butts. We're having like our guys' rounds like hucking over, so we're finding a good spot to hide. That was the first time I'd ever seen big camels close. We'd seen them from far away, but there was a bunch of... So I came around the corner and there was like a clearing, and there was a kid, and he had like a stick, young kid, like maybe like 8 or 9, and had like 10 camels. And they were, he had like a switch. So he was just, come on, controlling them, whatever. It was like, hello, whatever. And the fight kicked off, and I've never seen anybody herd anything that fast, let alone camels, the most random thing, like smacking them all, and had them corralled and booking it in the correct direction within probably like 2 minutes. And I remember being like, well, that's probably not a good sign if this kid's like pretty like aware of what the fuss were. Like, and he got out of there double quick. So, which also was good because I was like concerned that we'd had to care for a kid. I was like, oh no, like here we go. But sure enough, beat it out of there. That was deep.
Wow.
and then started to work our way work our way like over a significant distance to try to get in a position to like support our guys that were in quite a fight. And that's where my friend Atlee, who is the C6 gunner for 4 platoon, because at the time we had 4 platoons in my company, a pair company, so 2 and 4 would work together generally. So I remember telling him when they got to got into country, I was like, listen, dude, like, you're going to not want to stay in a spot for long. You want to break your belt into smaller, manageable amounts. Like, gave him some, like, tips that I learned when I was out. And he, at the end of that battle, he had earned a mention in dispatch for his C6 work, which is awesome. And what I took the most from it was when he came out of the battle, he was just like, dude, everything you said was true, man. Thanks for giving me that advice. And I remember being like, sick, I'm happy. I'm like, where's my mention? No, I'm playing. I was just like, fucking right. I just was proud that the advice was true, because like, you know that it's good advice, but like until it like plays out, you're like, oh yeah, it's good. So I remember him saying like, yeah, that was good advice or whatever it was, and I felt like pretty good about the fact I gave good advice. So, but yeah, our guys got pinned down for a moment and then ultimately like overcame the enemy. We dispatched quite a few bad guys. And the OC, by the afternoon, the OC was satisfied enough from where we got. And we didn't even get to the Dragon's Back. We just maybe got like most of the way there, but ultimately like didn't get there. And he was just like, you know what? Like, I think we fucking proved the point here. The guys are like exhausted because all we did was fight from morning until evening. And we marched back. And I remember like being stoked because I was like, fuck yeah, I didn't bring anything warm, and I spent that entire night like fucking freezing my ass off just getting to those positions. But like by that later that day, I was fucking pretty spent, as was everybody. Everybody's low on water, and like to be like 800 meters from the camp and be very thirsty makes no sense. So I'm happy that he decided to do that. I'm confident his side of the story would sound different, the majors, but I would think that they're probably pretty similar. I remember, I just did my hearing test recently, and the hearing test like 2 days ago, and they were just like, your left ear is a little bit worse than your right ear.
Reed, turn on the lights. Sorry, Brian.
No, it's good. I'll just wait.
Brace for it.
So I remember, I did my hearing test just recently, and they said left ear's a little bit worse than the right, but overall good. All right, sweet. I remember where I think that hearing was damaged. Master Warrant Officer Black. So Blackie, right? So Blackie, sure enough, we are on our exfil. 2 platoon hadn't been decisively engaged yet. So we were like basically heavy, no water anymore, been part of the fight, but like truly we're like, put me in, coach, like almost like a reserve basically, right? Probably a reserve. And they're like, you'll lead out. We're like, all right, cool. So we're leading out, and we get to a spot. We're not using footpaths. We're like actually like bush bashing kind of thing. We get to a spot where there's like a wall that extends across our frontage, and then there's a hole that you have to like crawl through. So we're like, all right, that's what we're doing. So everybody one at a time crawling through the hole. The Taliban guy, I think it was one guy, like waits till we have about 8 or 9 guys on one side of the wall, including myself, when he opens up on us. So the other side of the patrol opens up in that direction, but obviously that wall is like preventing us from talking. And in the meantime, we're still like, get the fuck through the hole. I engage in the direction I think it's coming from, but I have no eyes on him. Just like fuck, move down a bit. And then I set back up, and I'm like, the wall in front of me goes in front, and then there's a V cut in it, and it keeps going. So Blackie like comes over, he's like, Hurley, okay, follow my tracer. Boom, 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 boom. And his rifle's like right here. And I remember I tried to keep my eyes open. I was just like, no. Like, I didn't see it, man. I didn't see it. And he's like, fuck, right, follow the boom, 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 boom. And this time I'm like paying attention. Like, I will not blink. Like, ultimately couldn't see it. So now I'm like in this like heat of the moment being like, I got to ask him again. Like, I don't fucking know. I'm like, yeah, I still didn't see it. And he was like, for fuck's sake, you see the fucking crack in the wall? I'm like, yeah. He's like, that. Like, why did you just say that, you crazy man? Like, so anyways, get fired on that crack in the wall. We get all consolidated. At the end, I remember getting a compliment from one of the guys who I thought, who was a smart person. Like, he was one of those guys that are intelligent, that when you like speak to them, you're like, oh, you're well read. Like,
was he like a senior?
He was a corporal at the time, James Bremner. fucking million years for the guy. Jump masters together, fucking good shit. He went on to be an officer in the Air Force, and I can't remember exactly what he does anymore.
What's his name?
James Bremner. Yo, shout out. So I remember him being like, at the end of the firefight, he was just like, "Man, you fucking, that looked cool. Like seeing you shoot the season." I remember being like, "Yeah, that's fucking right." Like it was like a weird compliment that like I really took to heart though, because I was like,
Validated
yeah,
you.
because I saw everybody else looking cool. I don't see me like, and I'm hoping I look cool, but ultimately you're still.
Was this guy one of the OGs in the platoon?
He was an old. Yeah, sure, yeah. He's a paracompany guy. Like, yeah,
He's a corporal.
he's a corporal. I was a corporal, but like,
Oh, were you?
he was like more senior than I was. That's for sure.
Oh.
More importantly, it was a nice compliment to get from somebody that like I respected. So like to that, and then be like, "Man, you look fucking cool, dude." And then I was like, "I did look cool." Like, meanwhile, I'm just trying to get rid of the ammo to carry like less weight, but I'm just joking. Yeah. So we make it back. There's lots of good stories from that. A couple people.
Yo, was Conley in your platoon?
He was.
Yo, because when you said Blackie's name, because honestly, Sergeant Major Blackie, I don't know him. Like, he wasn't. I wasn't in the battalion at his time. So when you say his name, the only other person I remember speaking about Master Corporal at the time would have been Conley.
Conley, yeah.
Yeah.
He's crazy, dude. He's good shit though. So that was October 3rd. There is a lot more to that story that is like other people could tell because they were privy to different things.
This is the first engagement for Para Company? This one in particular?
Yeah, that was our first big, like, that was the first dust up for the tour. So it was.
That's historical, eh? Like, that's the first time Para Company was in combat.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. To my knowledge, man, that's
it was the first time I'd ever done anything with more than just my platoon. That's for sure. And so like to go back and like get like big sets of orders and like big gross movements and stuff, and then when you're doing the big gross movements, you're like, oh my god, this is fucking shitty. Like, you know what I mean? Like anytime you get a like company level, you're gonna do a company attack. Like as a platoon, there's like on the map it looks just like that's easy. But when you're using like on the ground, you're like, oh fuck, like every single step is over something, under something, moving around with all that weight. You're just like, okay, this is way more of a workout. Oh, it's only 200 meters. Good.
Yo, what was it like being a corporal back then?
Probably the same.
Did it mean a lot of responsibility?
It just meant I got told when I first got to battalion, you lose the moniker new guy when you're either have a tour or you're a corp. And I got promoted to corporal when I was going on tour. So I didn't feel like a new guy because I had 4 or 5 years in already, but I didn't feel like I could boast. I was myself, so probably boasted all the time, but like truly knew that like I was rubbing shoulders with guys that had like a gold medal in the Cambrian Patrol, or guys that had already been in my IED strikes and mine strikes from like Kabul, and other guys from 306. We had guys from the battles from Amadus and other stuff. So as much as you want to like
very
the reality is that like who am I trying to show off to? People that know the business. So
the reason why I say this is because for example, today I had a very big conversation with people in the company about being a corporal. And by definition, what's interesting is that a corporal is a non-commissioned officer by definition, as a rank. And what's interesting is like when a person feels responsible as a corporal to like take action to ensure that the people that are privates, for example, adhere to standards. And I'm like, we often forget how much of an important part the corporals play in managing the culture and the standard of where we work. And that's why I'm bringing this up, because I had a big conversation with our guys, and I think it's important to talk about it because I found that if my corporals are empowered, that they can make decisions that are good for the standard of the company, especially being in para company. I think, when I talk to a guy like you, who's a PI, who's like an airborne subject matter expert, at that point when you're a parachute instructor, you care about the culture and the standard of where you work, because that's what really makes us feel good about our identity of being paratroopers, knowing that not only do we work in a place that's super fit, but it's like we're all supposed to be really good at what we do. And in fact, I do more than the regular dude does.
Sure.
Right? In that concept of it. And so then if we want to be respected as someone who thinks that we're more capable, then we need to demonstrate that we can manage the basic shit.
Sure.
Showing up to the right place at the right time in the right dress, something as simple as that is like, if you're a corporal, you got to worry about that stuff with the private so that I don't need to worry about that chicken shit stuff. Because to me, this is something that I don't need to worry about. I tell you guys this, corporals, like, manage the fucking new guys.
Sure. Yeah.
You know? If I'm, like, lighting somebody up for some shit, like, dress. It's like, yo, what the fuck are the other guys doing? Because to me, I'm like, hey, guys, I don't care how long you've been in. The fact that you're a corporal, you need to recognize that your rank plays a function. And that function has to distinguish itself from what a private's function is.
Sure.
And that's why I'm articulating it, because I'm going through this right now with my guys.
Yeah.
So sorry, I digress. But if you have an opinion on it, that's dope.
It's pretty standard. That's pretty normal.
Yeah.
Says that's probably the same problem for everybody everywhere.
Yeah.
I think it's just people try to push their limits and boundaries, and that's fine. Like, I think that's part of the deal of growing up. But it's about, it causes you grief, and that's the part that matters, is that I think it shouldn't. So I would say, especially what I care about when it comes to the paratrooper angle, is that every para is a leader because of the fact that once you jump out of the plane, you're by yourself.
Yeah.
And all it takes is us to look at World War II to see that the speed increase of an airplane puts you exponentially apart further from each other. And once you hit the ground, if you're out of dress, that might be the reason why you get fucking shot. If you are out of dress and we jump into a cold environment, well, you're by yourself, and there's a chance that, like, if you didn't dress properly, you're going to fucking die.
Your survivability. Yeah.
Ultimately, you're going to draw attention to yourself, and that is exactly what snipers want, is somebody to draw attention to themselves.
So basically, I would argue that showing up to the right place, right time, right dress, that whole, like, expression is tied in with, like, ensuring that you would be a person who's not a liability, to ensuring...
I try to focus it onto the battlefield angle.
Yeah. Are you an asset or a liability?
Your job, especially as a paratrooper, is to jump in by yourself, link up with your homies, and then bring the fucking fight to the guys. And if you can't be trusted at work to put on the right boots, like, this is a bad start for me trusting you to link up with us when we need you the most, because you're too busy fucking around looking at your fucking self in your compass mirror, or you didn't bring your compass, or whatever the deal is. So,
yo, Brian, I appreciate you coming online to talk. Like, we've been going on for a bit. Is there things that you'd like to cover?
Yeah, I'll just bag it out right now.
Yeah.
So, that was our big October the 3rd brew up. We eventually make our way onto QRF, our platoon, and we get ourselves into a pretty serious IED strike. The day before, Private Freeman, rest in peace, he passed away when his vehicle hit an IED. And we ended up being the QRF response to go out there and give them security, so that call sign itself could clean up the mess, because they had a couple of injuries, and including a death, and had to clean up all of that stuff. And then once they were good to go and they pulled off a position, we actually, like, cleaned the actual position up, making sure that, you know, nothing fell in enemy hands. And there's a lot of, like, other parts, like everything, all the bullets and rockets and everything else that were inside the lab were compromised due to the concussion. So we had to take that all out and blow it up. So obviously that starts in the day and ends at nighttime. Very cool way to see Private Freeman off, though, was to see all that explosion. This is to bip all that blow in place, bip all that ammunition. It was a dramatic explosion, as you could imagine, because they were getting ready, I believe, to go out on a hop. So I remember, like, when I looked inside the back of the vehicle, they had, like, across the roof probably like 10 or 15 M72s. They had 84 rounds. They had tons and tons of 25 mil. So it was a sizable explosion. And when it went off, it was like one of those, like, you know, rest in peace. Like, I'm happy that this is, if there's anything we could do, it would be that if I can blow something up and make a fucking big dramatic thing out of it. So I remember being like, fucking right, sweet. But then the next day, we went out in the morning to remediate some roads. We got a call. So we missed breakfast. Already cranky, you know. What's the expression? Skinny bears don't survive the winter. We go out in the morning, miss breakfast, eat a Pop-Tart, sure, whatever. Kind of annoyed by that, but all right. Then we get a call while we're out there to go to another strike, another ID strike, whatever. We're going to provide security so they can, like, blow the bomb up that they found on the road. Sure, that's our job. Neat. Whatever. Miss lunch. So we're already like, fuck you. Whatever. And then we get a we get a radio call saying the Palmlet, the police
Operational
operational
mentor.
mentoring liaison team, went to pick up their Afghan police counterparts. And in this little compound, when they went in, all of their cops were dead. They'd all been murdered.
Oh,
So we get this phone call and we're like, oh shit, okay, cool. So we're gonna go. So they've called for our help. Okay, neat. So we roll up. There's the main road, a paved road, and then there's a dirt road that comes off of it, and that dirt road leads to the compound. So it runs adjacent, and in between the dirt road and the main road is like a ditch with a culvert that would allow like mountain rains to go through. Makes sense? Sure. We get there. One of the lavs parks in front of the entrance using that dirt road, and then our lav parks in behind it, making like a T. Okay, so we get out. This is an engineer vehicle. They get out. Their job now is to go inside, and they're gonna like tie a rope to the bodies and do a pull from a safe to make sure they're not booby trapped. So they go in there to do their pulls. Every body isn't booby trapped. And anything that was sketchy has been exploited. Ultimately, these are just a bunch of dead bodies. Cool. My officer is like, Hurley, I want you to get in front of that engineer vehicle. Between the vehicle and the building, there was an alley that led all the way up to like a big mountain. So he's like, I want you to like get yourself positioned so you can like provide cover where nobody could like provide cover. And then we could go behind you. Basically, you're going to create a protective corridor to go through. So I'm like, Roger that. I remember getting out of the vehicle, looking at the engineer vehicle and being like, tactically, to me, use cover to move. So get into that ditch, follow it up between the two roads to get in front of that vehicle and face in the correct direction. Third call out of the day, kind of getting over this fucking, we're all like, let's get the fuck out of here. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go left of the vehicle. So I walk to the left, perfectly fine, no issue. Get to the other side of the vehicle, slide into the ditch, and use it as protection to fucking face the right direction. And that makes sense to me. I still stand by it. It's a bit of my survivor's guilt now, but I have to live with it. So
why?
Because I'll tell you. We do the pulls on the bodies, nothing. That comes over the PRs, there will not be a bip. We're not going to blow up anything. All right, cool. Probably 2 seconds later, grabbing body bags. We're going to bag these guys up. We're going to fucking take them back, give them the proper burial, pass them off to whoever, and it's over. Okay, cool. And within fucking 2 seconds of that, like, kaboom. So I get hit from the left, like, and then body parts start kind of raining down all over the place. We're like, what the fuck? So right away, I like get up and I go to run over and I'm like, fuck my gun. Go back, grab the C6, run back over, and I can immediately see like a dead body to my left that was like torn to pieces. Like it was in very rough shape. It ended up being an Afghan interpreter, so that's why I don't mind talking graphically about it. But he was just a rib cage and a spinal column.
Holy
bottom, and that was
shit.
it. But it was like the first time that I had seen our Afghan Terps wearing Canadian combats. So this destroyed body had Canadian combats around it. So I had no idea who it could be. But I knew the only people that were there outside of their vehicles were my platoon. So it couldn't help but be like, holy fucking shit. Like,
This is one of the homies.
Like, so I all I have to do is run the distance of the vehicle because I'm at the front of it. So I run around the side of it, and there was Sergeant Cruz, who was alive for the moment. I remember looking at him and the damage he had taken to his body, and I was just like, I only have like my trauma bandage, my own tourniquet, like, and we, as you know, like we use our own first aid for ourselves. But in the worst case scenario, I'm going to use my shit to help you. But like ultimately, the idea, of course, is that you don't. That's for you. But I remember looking at him just instantly and being like, "There's nothing I could do to help this person. Like I don't have the shit to help this person." But that was all like in a moment's, like just instantly being like, oh shit, like I can't help this guy. And then sure enough, our doc was like slid up and he's like, T-triple-C. And I wasn't a T-triple-C. My number 2 was. So he went running over and I was like, okay, I need to find a job to do. Like, and this is all within like 10 seconds. Like right away, I'm like, I need to find a job to do. And I turn around and an engineer lav has no turret, like no proper fighting turret, right? And so the tailgate was dropped. the wheels on the side of the explosion were on fire. So it had caught fire and it was not destroyed, but like very pockmarked with shrapnel and stuff. But the
Was this an IED, Brian?
it was an idea. The ramp was down and you could see the driver, like it was a straight shot. So he got hammered by that concussion. So I remember being like, I need to help this driver. So I slung the C6, climbed up the driver's side, opened the door, and he was like very concussed. And I was just like, get up. I didn't know if it was going to turn into an ambush, like an IED initiated ambush, because that's what I would probably have done.
That's what you're thinking?
That's what I was thinking right away. So I was just like, yo, get up. I'm like, are you good? Wet check real quick. You're fine. He's like, yep. I'm like, hey, where's your gun? Pulls out a gun. I'm like, take it. Let's go. And jump down. I'm like, we need to find a smart spot to fucking go. And he's like, I need to go to the back. And that's where I was his section commander. I was like, you can't go to the back, man. We don't know who's hit yet. Nothing. Have an argument with him, like a mild one real quick. And I realized when I'm talking to him that I'm like, I am not talking to someone that's all there. Like I could tell that like something inside of his head was fucking hurt. So I was like literally had this like 2-second conversation and another T4C comes up. He's like, I got him. I'm like, cool. Turn around and walk him right towards the back. And I was like, oh no. But didn't matter. I have something else to do. So I fucking right away find a different spot to set up that has better overwatch, set the weapon up in that position and let everybody look inwards while I looked outwards. It was good too because I didn't stand around like looking at all this drama. But Warrant Gaetan Roberge was killed in that IED strike, and his where the IED was hit, he must have taken a big brunt of it because he ended up being thrown quite a distance. But that was like one of my vivid memories of that time was seeing him like his body being like thrown away like in the distance. Like
you saw his body get like launched from the explosion?
I saw him, yeah, and he wasn't in very good condition obviously when that happened, but like I remember I didn't know it was him. I just
right, you saw a body get launched.
Silhouette was going away. Sergeant Cruz fell right near the spot. It was most likely the Terp that stepped on it, which is why he was catastrophically destroyed on the road. So his body went up, landed right beside me. And then Afghan police officer his legs were cut off and he was thrown a long distance as well. He was very dead as well. And one of the things that like we had a female weapons deck commander, and Murphy, what's up, Murph? And she said something that I like stuck with me, and it was very random. And when we got up to that cop's body, his like skin had ripped off from his skull and was like kind of like moved over. So like a mask like was like poorly put on. And I remember, so it was like his teeth were like very visible with the way his face was like offset. But she pointed out right away, she was just like, he's got really white teeth. I remember just for the moment being like, that is probably the most fucked up thing I've ever heard for the moment. But like later it was funny to think about it and be like, I guess that, yeah, he does have white teeth. But like, I remember at the time being like, that's what you're pulling from this? Like, what the fuck? But then like it over time has like turned into something that I like laugh about. But I do remember the time being like, I mean, yeah, I guess like, well, it's not really what I was thinking, but sure. Yeah, he does have white teeth. So yeah, sadly, Sergeant Cruz passed away from that one. Gaetan Roberge, he passed away as well. Randomly enough, Gaetan Roberge is buried in Sudbury, and my wife's from Sudbury. So Remembrance Day, I go off and I'll actually go and visit his grave. So it's a nice little closure whenever I get a chance to go up there to like raise a toast to his spirit. You know what I mean? Like, damn, not forgotten, that's for sure. So the ID strike, that was pretty intense. So we get back. I remember we got back to the, so my lab remember it was a T, right? I'm on my hands here. So the IED, this vehicle's like that. There we go. The IED blows up here, boom, and it's directional. So it blows them that direction away from me, which is why I didn't take any shrapnel. But I was 2 road wheels from the explosion and I didn't get hit with any shrapnel. But the way the hole was, like ultimately blew them in a different direction. So lucky me. And now the Survivor Guild angle is, had I taken the way that I would say is tactical, would I have fucking died? And I have to live with my life saying, well, it doesn't matter because I didn't. But what helps me rationalize it is, what happens if I did do that and I didn't set it off? would I be fine to live that life still? And so like I have to tell myself yes, because I have to live the life I'm living, right? So like who knows? There's lots of stories of guys that like a whole platoon, like 30 or 40 people pass over a spot and finally one person accidentally hits it, and then they're the ones in the middle of a patrol that die. So there's who knows what the right answer is. There is no right answer. Have to live with my own like version of guilt, and ultimately I've seen mental health lots of times to make sure that I'm on the right track, and they always say the same thing, which is like, yeah, like you made the right choice because it's the choice you made. And like, okay, cool.
No, you're a religious person, or
I'm not, but as I get older I see the value in it. But if anything,
because sometimes, like, I don't know, maybe
I don't hate on it though.
I'm a weird person, but sometimes I'm like, man, karma, power of the universe, is there some shit like this that actually has some power in existence? You know what I mean? And this is like we're dancing some weird line of like talking about some crazy shit, but at the same time, I can't help but feel like some things are out of my power and control, or some things are destined to happen.
Which is why it goes back to me feeling dread.
Yeah.
Because you're in a situation where that like every step could kill you, every misstep could kill somebody else. If you go out to try to save somebody and die doing it, is that useful to everybody? Is it smart to like break cover to turn the machine gun around to fucking hit the bad guys, putting yourself exposed? What else if you get tagged right away? Is that a good idea? The answer would be no. But if you hold out and stay up there and fucking suppress the enemy, then it's a great idea. Case in point, Josh O'Toole. Awesome dude, sniper, fucking one of the craziest mother lovers you'll ever meet. And he got, I believe, the Medal of Bravery, the one below the star.
The below the star is the Medal of Valor.
Medal of Valor. So he got that. He did a bunch of things in a firefight. After he was in the platoon that like ripped us out from Zangabad. We had the 50 cal facing south because the Pickleys told us most ticks are coming from the south. Okay, cool. They got attacked from the north. He got out, moved like. Turn the 50 cal all the way around. Now is hanging out in the open and suppress bad guys. Justifiably so. Read that in a write-up. It sounds like he's a crazy person. He was like firing M72s, shooting rifles, got the idea, turn the 50 cal, and the only way that would work was to get out in the open and fucking fire. Had he got killed right away, I don't think he'd get a medal for that, but he didn't, and he persevered and fucking proved that he has bigger balls than all of us. Because in my opinion, when I hear that story, I'm always just like, I don't know if I would like get out in the open to do that. Like I probably would think of a different way to get myself to do that. But he took the initiative, attacked, and ultimately fucking, I don't want to say rewarded, but like got recognized for being taking the fight to the bad guys, which is what you want to do with your paratrooper.
Listen, Brian, with that idea too of like being recognized, I do want to say something real quick about it because I try to mention it in the podcast interviews about why we do this podcast. And it's the job isn't about glory and valor, even though sometimes those concepts can be fucking adopted by naive young bucks in the army. But when we look at recognizing our peers or the members of this organization, it's important to do that. But it's not like why we do it. But when people do some incredible acts of bravery, you could say, we can't help but feel like we admire that. And sometimes we are like, damn, they don't give out enough medals, because it kind of sucks when like that happened, which is awesome, but then also all this other stuff happened. And how it is sometimes is not everybody gets to have a medal. I guess to be recognized. And I'm sure, Brian, you've done some tremendous, incredible things being who you are, and how dedicated you are to the platoon and to your buddies and stuff. So I'm glad you came on here, because I think this is a way where I can kind of contribute to the regiment and recognize dudes who have done awesome things. And you name dropping people and telling their story is a great way to make sure that their sacrifices, don't get lost and stuff and forgotten about.
And I want to make sure that it's clear, like, I'm not looking for any additional recognition. I am just wanting, like, if I had to point at who deserved it in the platoon, I wouldn't point at me. You know what I mean? I know of other people that like are well deserving, and lots of guys did get recognition for being fucking badass motherfuckers. But like, ultimately, I think it's smart that there is a limit on how much recognition is given, because then it kills the vibe if everybody kind of gets it. You know what I mean?
Right. It keeps it value.
That's for sure.
Listen, Brian, you're a badass motherfucker, and I'm really thankful that you came out here to talk. I'm glad I got to serve with you overseas in that battalion. man, it's been an honor to have you here twice now. Everybody who's listening, if some of the things you talked about here can be referenced in the first interview we've done, check it out. But Brian, man, thank you so much for taking the time to want to talk and share about your service and talk about these people that we mentioned today. It's important. You doing this is a way to educate people who are serving, who are planning on like becoming members of the battalion, guys who are out and retired, just a way to connect and to learn about what you went through that was different from their era of service. And yeah, I don't know, Brian, thank you. If you have any last words, please send it.
Lots of more stories as usual, and never enough time. I gotta write a book. Like I said, I had a silly name for it last time, but probably truth or something like that. Mostly lies. I don't know. Anyways, really appreciate the opportunity, guys. This is I really do believe in this, which is why I think it's important that we have this opportunity, and I want other people to take advantage of it as well. Sadly, a lot of guys don't want to talk about their experiences, and hopefully through your podcast and maybe through me pushing and prodding and trying to advocate that they tell their stories, that we get more of them on this, because all three battalions, not to mention the Pickleys and the Van Dews, but like specifically the RCRs, absolutely smashed assholes. And of course we got a bloody nose because that's war, but like ultimately we came out on top and have built the leadership group now that are leading the way for the next generation. We only know, who knows, what's going to happen in the future, but like the trick is to be ready. So that's the good news. We are.
That's well said, Brian. Thank you. For everybody listening, it's been an awesome interview. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, like the channel, share it. If you're in the battalion, in the regiment, it's important to do these kind of things. So I hope you come online one day if you're listening yourself. Again, I just want to give a shout out to the authors who wrote this book, White School, Black Memories, written by Chief Warrant Officer John Barnes, and also No Names, No Pack Drill, written by Lieutenant Colonel Steve Macbeth, who actually now serves with the New Zealand Defense Force. Awesome stuff. Glad you guys enjoyed the episode. Take care.
Pro Patria.
Pro Pat.
Airborne.